everybody. Welcome to Country Then and Now. I'm Casey Gibbs. We are back this week after a week off due to some technical issues on our end, but we are good to go. This week we have Cutter and Cash. Well, one half of Cutter and Cash. We have Cutter Singleton. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing just fine. How are you?
Doing good. How's everything out your way?
Well, everything's going pretty good. We've had a whole lot of rain here lately. I know that much.
Yeah, you have. Did you get any effects other than that with the hurricane?
We have not. We had about 5.5 inches of rain, which we needed, but we're glad everything's okay, and our thoughts and prayers with everyone that has been affected.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. You didn't need 5.5 inches at one time, though.
That's exactly right. No, we didn't need that much. Inch or two would have been okay.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of what we got here. You either got did it all at once or don't did it at all. but well, let's start out talking about the history of Cutter and Cash for those that do not know anything about you or your brother. So,
well, it started. Of course, I'm the older brother, and so it genuinely started with me, and that's the way I guess it's supposed to be. But I was 5 years old. Cash, he would have been about 2, so he wasn't taking much interest at the time. But at 5 years old, I heard Flatt and Scruggs on the radio, and I can take you to the exact place that I heard that song come on the radio, and it was the Ballad of Jed Clampett. And I knew right then that I wanted to play bluegrass music, and I was going to do whatever it took to make sure it happened. And so I asked my mom, I said, "What is that?" She said, "Well, that's Flatt and Scruggs," or, she said, that's bluegrass. I said, No. I said, "What is that?" And she said, "Well, that's the banjo." I said, "I want a banjo. I want a banjo for Christmas." And I was 4 at the time. This was in the middle of the summertime. And so I turned 5 in September, and then December rolled around, Christmas time, and right underneath the tree was a Deering Good Time banjo, open back banjo, and I was just thrilled to death. And so I took my first lesson on New Year's Day of 2012 and took it from a gentleman named Jack Martin. And Jack played the dobro for Lester Flatt and played the bass for Bill Monroe as well as James Monroe, and was a seasoned musician, been on several sessions and worked the road for many years, and just a great gentleman. I've learned so much from Mr. Jack. So that was a great piece, right there to get to learn from him. So a few years later, Cash decided that he didn't care for all that attention that I was getting. He wanted a slice of that himself. He jumped right in with the guitar, and we started doing more of a Flatt and Scruggs style show. And that's the way it started out. Then a few years later, we decided that, the brother harmony thing would be kind of neat to try. And I could not sing for the life of me with a banjo. I just could not do it. So we decided that I needed to play the guitar and Cash needed to learn the mandolin. And so that's kind of the way our show's been rolling ever since.
Okay. Well, good deal. And how did everything kind of start rolling with Jeannie Seeley? Because I know she's kind of mentoring you right now. So how did all that come about?
That's a great question. I always love telling this story. This is one of my very favorites because this was a bucket list item for me to meet Jeannie Seeley. I'd seen her records before, listened to her for years, heard her on the Grand Ole Opry before, and watched her on the Larry's Country Diner and on the Country Family reunions and stuff like that, and just been a fan. She's an icon in country music, and I just wanted to meet her. I just wanted to meet Jeannie Seeley. So it worked out. We were able to go down to the Texas Troubadour Theater there in Nashville, or in Music Valley, right there across from the Opry.
Mm-hmm.
And Rhonda Vincent was being inducted into the Opry that night. She's been so kind to us as well. What a dear friend we've got in Rhonda Vincent. But anyway, she was being inducted into the Opry that night and was hosting the Midnight Jamboree show. And we went on over there. Of course, that's a great show, and I'm a huge Ernest Tubb fan. Matter of fact, this is one of Ernest Tubb's ties I've got on right now.
Oh, really?
But anyway, I love E.T. and I love the Ernest Tubb Midnight Jamboree. And so I thought, what a great opportunity to support Rhonda and go see her on her night of induction. This will be fun. And they had a single out, Jeannie and Rhonda together, called "I'm All Through Crying Over You," which is a great song.
Yep.
So that was out, and I thought, I bet Jeannie Seeley's going to be there, and I hope that I get the opportunity to meet her. So we went on over there, and we're sitting right there on the second row. I mean, it's showtime. Rhonda comes out. They're hosting the Midnight Jamboree, and it's great. And I look, And here comes Jeannie Seeley right in the middle of the show. And she walks out there and they sang I'm All Through Crying Over You. Man, I was just thrilled. I thought this is just the greatest thing. So Jeannie walked right off the stage and I saw her gathering her things over in the corner. I thought she's fixing to leave. And there's a 50% chance she's going to walk right out that front door. And I'm not going to let this go by that I'm not going to go out there and stand and not talk to her. So I grabbed Cash and said, come on, let's go. So we walked over there to the front door and stood and waited out on the sidewalk. And sure enough, she walked right out that door there. And I said, Miss Seeley, can I get my picture taken with you? She said, sure. She said, do you boys play music? And I thought, oh, this is just too cool. You know, this is just the greatest thing in the world. So we hit it right off. We got our picture taken. She said, I'm going to find out more about you boys. And we talked about some shows we were working. And there was a place called the Lincoln Jamboree up in Hodgenville, Kentucky. And we were working up there quite a bit. And sure enough, they wound up booking her for a show, and we got to open it for her, and we really got to talk to her and, you know, really get to know her, and she got to know us and see our show and kind of what we do. And it just worked, and we've been great friends ever since. So it really is such a neat story.
Good deal. Yeah. Jenny is one of my favorite people.
Oh, she's just great. I'm telling you, she is just great.
Yeah. One of the nicest people you'll ever meet too.
Oh, she's so genuine.
Yeah.
And I love talking to her. I talk to her at least 2 or 3 times every day on the phone. And you never know what you're going to get, what she's going to say, what's going to happen, what she's got in mind, what she's going to do. You know, it's just great. I love it. And she's just as funny, if not funnier, off stage as she is on. And it's just great. I've been so blessed to get to know her. Yeah.
One of the queens of country. So.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
You said you had E.T.'s Town. How did that come about? Where'd you find it?
Well, the easiest way to tell you, and this is where I'm going to leave that. It kind of found me, and that's just the best way to put that. That's where I'm going to leave that. It kind of found me, and I love that because that's a great piece of magic. I collect country music memorabilia. Well, I mean, you look around behind me, you can see all kinds of crazy stuff. That's
right.
The Rex Allen suit over there, and then behind me is one of Don Warden's suits from the Porter Wagner show, and there's Lester Flatt's license plate from the bus, and all kinds of crazy stuff. I love it.
Good deal. We talked a little bit last night in preparation for the show today, and you kind of told me that we were not going to be doing 4 songs, but this morning you told me, 2:00 this morning, you told me we were.
So we decided just to go ahead. We want to make sure we give you enough time, you know.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about Call of Kentucky.
That's the first song that we went into the studio and cut. And that's a song that was written by Jeannie many years ago. And she said, what if y'all went in and did that song? You know, because we're from Kentucky, and that's a great bluegrass style song. Mm-hmm. And I was just honored that she even throw us a song like that. You know, this was before she sent the song to us to do in our live shows. This was before we even had ever talked about doing anything in the studio.
Right.
And so she sent us that song, and that's where it all started right there, was with Call of Kentucky.
Okay. That's but Mamas Don't Let Your Babies Grow Up to Be Cowboys is the first official release.
First official release single, yes.
Okay. All right. Well, let's go ahead and play Call of Kentucky on Country Then and Now, and I guess you could say premiere it.
Let's do it.
All right. Here we go.
Can't you hear the call of Kentucky? Kentucky. Can't you see the sparkling morning dew? Can't you smell the sweet new mown bluegrass? Oh, can't you hear Kentucky calling you? Well, no matter how far away you wander, no matter how long you may roam, you'll wake up some night to that moon shining bright. That's Kentucky calling you back home. Can't you hear the call of Kentucky? Kentucky. Can't you see that sparkling morning dew? Can't you smell that sweet new mown bluegrass? Oh, can't you hear Kentucky calling you? Well, don't you know the home folks are waiting? Don't you know that they're waiting just for you? For you've never left the minds of the ones you've left behind. Like Kentucky, they've all been calling you. Can't you hear the call of Kentucky? Kentucky. Can't you see the sparkling morning dew? Can't you smell that sweet new mown bluegrass? Oh, can't you hear Kentucky calling you? Can't you hear the call of Kentucky? Kentucky. Can't you see the sparkling morning dew? Can't you smell that sweet new mown bluegrass? Can't you hear Kentucky calling you? Can't you hear Kentucky calling you?
We good? Yeah. Call of Kentucky, Cutter
That's it.
Singleton, Cutter and Cash on Country Then and Now. That is off of what will be off of a new album by the end of the year, maybe?
Well, this is already on CD. Those have not been released to streaming platforms yet. Mama's has, but the CD has been released. We're fixing to go in and cut a full new studio album. That's our EP right there.
Okay, gotcha. I didn't know that anything was already out. So
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, good deal. So, I mean, obviously, Flat and Struds were heroes, and that's who kind of got you into this. Over the course of time, who were some of the other influences and some of the other people you've been able to maybe work with or want to work with?
Well, I love talking about that because I think that's so important. Everybody has been so kind to us. I mean, everybody that you could think of that we've been able to be around has been just wonderful to deal with. They really have, and been so encouraging and so supportive. But I love all kinds of music. I love, well, I mean, all genres of country music, bluegrass and, the old pedal steel type stuff. And, I
Western
love
swing. Yeah.
Yes, I love Western swing. I love all that sort of thing. And I think that's what's so important and what makes what we do a little bit different, because I like to take a little bit of all of that and kind of tie it into a bluegrass feel and put that into our show. Because that's something different. It's very much a bluegrass sound, and that's what I want, because we are a bluegrass band. And I want to always be known as playing bluegrass music. But taking stuff, that isn't bluegrass, and putting that in, that's pretty neat. Well, just like Mamas Don't Let Your Babies Grow Up to Be Cowboys. That by no means is a bluegrass song, And I'm really excited because on this new album, we've got some really, really interesting things that's going to be coming up that you certainly wouldn't expect to be in a bluegrass band or in a bluegrass album or on a bluegrass show. So it's really, really neat.
So I guess that means we got rap, rock, pop, soul, and R&B on this album coming out.
Well, I tell you what, I'll throw this little bit of a teaser out.
All right.
We're going to be doing a Beatles song. We're going to be doing a Beatles song on this.
It's funny you say that, because down here there is a tribute band that does Beatles music bluegrass style.
Well, how about that? That's pretty neat. That is pretty cool.
I'll have to find it and send you the link.
Please do. I'd love to see that. That is pretty neat.
Yeah, that is. But it's funny. You went back and did Mamas Don't Let Your Babies Grow Up to Be Cowboys. And a buddy of mine, Carson Peters, recorded How Blue, old Reba McEntire song, on his current album.
Carson's great. They have a wonderful band. They are just great. We're always together just at Spigma Awards there in Nashville.
Yeah.
We always run into Carson there. He's a great fellow and a great musician, great entertainer.
He is. Don't tell him that, but yeah, he is. Been trying to get him on this show, and
well, you need to. That'd be fun.
Yeah. So, what was the premise for Mamas? How did you come up with that as opposed to something else?
I love telling this. I always tell this on our stage shows. Anytime we do Mamas, which we always usually close with Mamas working on a building an Orange Blossom special. That's kind of the way we roll out with our show. But I always tell this because I just love this. And this is a classic Sealy moment, as I call it. We'd worked the Williamson County Fair just outside of Nashville, a little town of Franklin. It's not a little town. It's a large town there outside of Nashville. And we worked that big fair, and it's a wonderful fair. And we worked that several years now. And we got done. Celie always calls to see how everything's going, you know, and how everything went. So we just left, pulled out in the big red van. We was rolling out of the fairgrounds there. And she said, how'd everything go? So it was great. She said, well, I'm just going to cut right to it. I said, what's that? And it's late. It's 10:30, 11 o'clock. She said, I've got an idea. I said, well, what's that? She said, what if we go back in the studio and we cut an up-tempo, high-speed version of Mamas Don't Let Your Babies Grow Up to Be Cowboys? And I looked at Cash. He was sitting over there. I said, I looked at him. I thought, she's crazy. You know, that's no kind of a bluegrass
I've been
song.
told that before, so
Yeah. I looked at Cash, and he looked at me. Brennan, our bass man, he was up there in the front seat. He turned around, looked at us in the back, you know. And I sat there and I said, oh, that sounds like a great idea, you know, because that's just what you say. And what else do you say to Jeannie Seeley? You know?
right.
So we sat down after we got off the phone with her. I thought, oh, how in the world are we going to be able to pull this one off? So I went, sat down here at the house with Cash, and we started going through it. And man, we hit it just when the first 2 or 3 times, boom, and it clicked. And I thought, my gosh, she's a genius. You know, that was all that took. I love doing that song because it's got a great crowd reaction because they don't expect you to do something like that. It's just wonderful.
It's funny how some of these classic country, older country songs can be reimagined as bluegrass songs that you would have never even thought could be bluegrass.
Absolutely. And I'm excited. We got some other stuff coming up. Got a great Bill Anderson song we got coming up. Got a good Johnny Russell tune. It's going to be really exciting, and got some great collaborations coming in with us too.
I hadn't heard Johnny Russell's name in years.
I love Johnny Russell.
Every time I think of him, I think of Rednecks, White Sox, and Blue
Ribbon Beer. That's that old song. That's a good song.
And Act Naturally.
Yep.
Those are the two that. Well,
I love Johnny Russell.
Well, other one I just thought of, Baptism of Jesse Taylor.
Yep. That's a great song.
Yeah.
And what a great message it's got to us.
It is. Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's go ahead and play Mamas.
Let's do it. Mamas Don't Let Your Babies Grow Up to Be Cowboys.
Country Then and Now.
Guitars and drive them old trucks. Let them be doctors and lawyers and such. Mamas, don't let your babies grow up to be cowboys, 'cause they'll never stay home and they're always alone, even with someone they love. Like smoky old pool rooms and clear mountain mornings, those little warm puppies and children and girls of the night. Them that don't know him won't like him, and them that do sometimes don't know how to take him. He ain't wrong, he's just different, but his pride won't let him do things to make you think he's right. Mamas, don't let your babies grow up to be cowboys. Don't let them pick guitars and drive them old trucks. Let them be doctors and lawyers and such. Mama, Mamas, don't let your babies grow up to be cowboys, 'cause they'll never stay home and they're always alone, even with someone they love. 'Cause they'll never stay home and they're always alone, even with someone they love.
Mamas, don't let your babies grow up to be cowboys. Cutter and Cash on Country Then and Now.
That's it.
All right. Yeah, that's probably the most up-tempo version I've ever heard of that.
It's certainly something different.
I
isn't
wonder
it?
what Waylon thinks. Waylon and Willie would think.
That's a great question.
So Willie might hear it. I mean, he's
Well, it has been played on Willie's Roadhouse. Thanks to Celie. She's got it
I was gonna
posted on
say,
there and helped us. Of course, she's a great host on there and an air of personality.
right. Yeah. I was gonna say he's probably heard it because I know it's got played on Willie's. So, had to have.
And thanks to Jenny, she's been such a help to get that push. We really do appreciate that.
Yeah. She is one of the golden people of country. So
Just one of the golden people, I'll tell you that.
yeah, right. Absolutely. Have you got to play the Opry yet?
We have been able to perform there. Yes, we went on with Jeannie. She put us on a portion of her show, and that was wonderful. We received 2 standing ovations and got to do that song and got to do Working on a Building as well. And that's a moment that I've dreamed of ever since I figured out what the Grand Ole Opry was at 5 years old. I knew that's where I wanted to be. Never in a million years would I've ever dreamed I've been able to perform there before I graduated high school. And that was just so neat to look out and see teachers there and superintendent and different friends and stuff like that. It was just great. There was 2 charter buses that came from our little hometown of Marion, Kentucky to support us. And that means so much to us. We have a great hometown here, and they support us so much. And that was just great to look at and see people you knew. You know, that was pretty neat.
When was that?
That was on April the 6th of this year. I remember that date.
And then right after that, you graduated high school.
Graduated high school. And that's a great thing to bring up there too, because Jeannie Seeley and her husband Gene Ward, which is a great attorney there in Nashville, and he turned 92 this weekend.
Yeah, he did.
It was a great birthday celebration with all kinds of great folks. But Gene and Jeannie tag teamed the commencement address for our high school graduation.
Really?
And that was just unbelievable. How cool that was to have 2 people of that caliber deliver something like that, and it went over so well. There was actually people that didn't have any relation to any students at all graduating that came just to hear the address. I thought that was so funny.
Yeah, I could see that.
It was really neat especially for our little town. You know, it was a graduating class of 120, the largest to ever come through our high school. So that was really,
well,
really
I can do you one better. My graduating class back when I graduated in 1992 was a graduating class of 1.
There you go, 1.
1. I went to private school, so.
Oh well, there you go. You did me better than that. Yeah, that's kind of cheating. Now.
Yeah. So I tell people I graduated first in my class or last in my class.
First or last. There you go. There's no way to lose. There's no way to lose.
And not a lot of people can say they had Jeannie Seeley do their commencement address.
That was just unbelievable. And it was so great. It was so powerful, so meaningful, and it was so true because she's had a hard road to hoe to get into this business, especially during that time frame.
Right. Because when she got in, there wasn't a lot of female country artists.
What's that?
When she started performing country and getting into this, there wasn't a whole lot of female country artists.
No, and she made it happen, and that's, I love hearing stories about what it took to make sure it did happen and how hard it was, you know, and what she had to stand up for herself and get in there and let it happen. And it's just great. I love hearing about all that because thanks to her, it's so easy for, you know, so much easier. It's not easy by any means, but she certainly helped so many people with a hand up as well, back to Ernest, as Ernest did for her as well on the Midnight Jamboree show. And that's another great full circle moment there, as we call it. She had us on the Ernest Tubb Midnight Jamboree show, and to this date, we're the youngest group to ever host the Midnight Jamboree show, which is the second longest running radio show in the world. And so that is just so neat that, you know, Ernest helped her out, and here she is helping us out. It's just unbelievable. I'm so honored. I really am.
Yeah. You've got a lot of history. Apparently, you're like me. You're a history buff when it comes to
Oh, absolutely.
country and bluegrass. So, I mean, it's not like you just at 5 years old decided you wanted to do this. Apparently, you already had a inclination, kind of, by hearing what your mom and dad were playing.
Well, that was what was on our local radio station. That was just kind of what came on, and it was really kind of a strange deal that's what happened. No, they love old country music and they love bluegrass and all that, but that certainly wasn't something that they were just playing on the radio. You know, that was just what came on.
Yeah.
And my mom, she can sing. You know, she doesn't have any interest as far as performing or even getting up in front of people and doing it. She can carry a tune, but she doesn't have any interest to pursue it as we do. But aside from that, and my grandfather, on my mom's dad, he was a kind of what I call a front porch picker.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad's grandfather, he was a steel guitar man here that played local shows, little service stations, parking lots, and high schools and things like that. But that's our only connection as far as family music. And so it's really interesting, you know, that it just worked out that way. I believe it's totally a gift from God, and He's the one that wanted us to do this. So I'm so proud to carry that torch as well.
Right. Yeah. My granddad played in a local senior citizens band.
How about that?
Nursing homes and community events and that type of thing.
Sure.
And I thought when I was the age you were talking about, 4 or 5 years old, that I wanted to be a country music singer.
Well, how about that?
And learned real quick. Well, not real quick. I mean, it was cute trying to sing when you're that young, but when you start getting into your teens and you realize you can't carry a tune in a bucket, it's not cute anymore.
Yeah, the cute factor goes quick. It really does. You got to take advantage of it, I guess, while you can.
Yeah. Now, back then, I wasn't thinking about taking voice lessons or learning to play an instrument or anything. I just thought I was doing what I was supposed to do, and then realized as I got older, it's torture to people's ears.
Oh, man. We have just the biggest time going out and doing what we do. We just love it.
Yeah. The style of bluegrass over the last several years has progressed to more of a mainstream sound as well.
What I call kind of contemporary, and that's wonderful that people can go out and do that if that's what they love, and they need to be doing that. But our style, I wouldn't call it traditional. I mean, it has definitely some traditional influences, but it's most certainly not contemporary by any means. It's kind of our own Cutter and Cash style. And Dwayne Allen of the Oak Ridge Boys, he was there Sunday, and we talked at Gene's birthday party, and we talked to him for a long, long time. And that's what he told us. He said, "I love what you all are doing." He said, "because it's your own." And he said, "It's something different." And that was just a great compliment to me, because I take such pride, you know, in the style of music that we play, and making it our own, and making sure that's an entertaining style show that people enjoy, you know. And that was great to hear that from somebody that's been in the business for years. That was just a wonderful compliment. But I agree, you know, even as just listening to our music, sitting back and me sitting back and watching it, I agree with that. You know, it is something totally different, and it is our own. And I take lots of pride in that.
Yeah. And it's kind of like, I was having this conversation with somebody the other day. Country is not just country anymore. You got so many subgenres.
Oh, absolutely.
Fall under that now. So people that didn't like mainstream country back in the 80s and 90s, they're listening to country now, and it's great for what it is, for bringing new people into the genre. So
there's always an ever-changing music. That's part of music, you know. It's always changing. That's the way it's supposed to be. You can't hold on to something that's in the past. You know, you've got to make it new, and you got to make it your own, and bring people what they want to hear.
Mm-hmm. And that's happening in bluegrass. It's happening in country. It's happening in every type of music. And
it's happened for years and years and years. Yeah. This is no new thing, you know.
Yeah. It's funny when you hear people say, well, country's not country anymore, or this genre's not that genre anymore. Well, it's not. I mean, it's not. The country of you're hearing on Top 40 radio today is not what I grew up on in the 70s, 80s, and 90s.
Right.
And
it doesn't sound like Ferlin Husky and Ray Price, you know. It's not supposed to. It's a new thing. Well,
right.
I love that old music. That's what I
Me
love.
too.
That's what I appreciate, and that's totally fine. Everybody can listen to what they want to, but country music and bluegrass and rock and roll and pop, it's all changing, and that's the way
Yeah.
it's supposed to be.
And it's all married in some facet.
It really is. There's a great connection between all kinds of music, and that's at the end of the day. There's good music and there's bad music, and I love good music, and I think everybody does. Everybody knows the difference between that.
Well, you said earlier you listen to all different types. What's one artist or one genre that you listen to that would surprise people?
Well, I love that '60s pop sound, and the Nashville sound. They took a whole lot of influences from pop, which a lot of those songs were crossovers during that time. The Nashville sound with Chet Atkins, and the strings and the real highly sophisticated sound. I love that sound because it's so big. It's a big sound. It's just so clean sounding, if that makes sense. It's just great. But I love that 60s pop with the backup singers, and the doo-wop stuff and the oohs and ahs, and the big string sections and all that. I love all that. It really is a great sound. And I love taking those type songs and making them bluegrass as well. And we're going to be working on some stuff like that coming up soon.
Okay. Another song changing subjects a little bit. Another song you sent me this morning was "The Countryside with Me."
Yes.
Talk about that one for a minute.
This is a pretty cool song. This was one that we were actually there at Jeannie's house out on the back deck, sitting there looking at the river. We were talking about different songs she'd written and different things she'd done. And she said, "Hold on just a minute." She got up, she went in the house, she brought out this big folder, and it was full of papers after papers after papers. And they were all songs that she had written that had never had anything done with them, or that she'd never finished, or, different stuff like that. And so she handed me this song. She said, "I could always hear this done bluegrass." She said, "Take it and see what you can do with it." So that's what we did. We took the song home, put a melody to it. She said, "I don't remember what it sounded like." She said, "I just wrote the words to it." She said, "Never finished it." She said, "You need some songwriter experience under your belt." She said, "Go write a third verse to this." She said, "Go write a third verse to it."
No pressure.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, no pressure at all. And she said, "Go write a third verse to it, put a melody to it, and we'll put it on the album." And I'm like, "Oh, wow, this is great." So that was a really neat thing to be able to say we're songwriters and co-writers with Jeannie Seeley. That's just unbelievable for me. So we wrote the third verse together and put the melody to it and went in the studio and cut it. And here it is.
All right. Let's play it. "The Countryside with Me," Cutter and Cash on Country Then and Now.
City lights have called you to the wrong side of the hill. They never made you happy, and Lord knows they never will. But you can't find no freedom in a city that ain't free. So won't you come on back and lay back in the countryside with me? Lay back in the countryside with me. Everything you're looking for is here if you just see. All the living here's easy and the loving here's free. So won't you come on back and lay back in the countryside with me? Well, you crossed so many bridges, now you don't know where to turn. But that old bridge leading home ain't never been burned. Well, you and I both know right where you ought to be. Why don't you come on back and lay back in the countryside with me? Lay back in the countryside with me. Everything you're looking for is here if you just see. All the living here's easy and the loving here's free. So won't you come on back and lay back in the countryside with me? Know you had to try to spread your wings and fly, but sometimes what you're looking for is what you've left behind. So come on home and pour yourself a glass of sweet iced tea. Then come on back and lay back in the countryside with me. Lay back back in the countryside with me. Everything you're looking for is here if you just see. All the living here is easy and the loving here is free. So won't you come on back and lay back in the countryside with me? Won't you come on back and lay back in the countryside with me?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
I got you now.
I said you done good for your first tour, right?
I appreciate that. But I love that line. And that was one line that Seeley helped us out on. I know you had to try to spread your wings and fly, but sometimes what you're looking for is what you've left behind. That's just so great. I just love that.
Her mind is wired a whole lot different than what mine is. I never would have came up with that.
She talks in song lyrics. I'm telling you what, if you carried around a notepad and pen and walked around listening to things she said, you could write songs all day long. She talks in song lyrics. That's no kidding. And she doesn't even think about it. That's the crazy thing.
That's the crazy thing, yeah. Yeah. I mean, and people like Bill Anderson that can just go in and just write, that has the mind of a songwriter. Doesn't really talking song, but has the mind of a songwriter. And then here's Seeley over here just talking in lyrics, talking in song.
Here's a great little teaser for the next album. A song we're going to be doing. It was a song that was written by Bill, and it was a song that I've always loved. It's probably my favorite Bill Anderson song. It was one that he did up in the 70s, and it was a big hit for him, but it wasn't, in the early days like Po Folks or Still or something like that. It was something that was a little bit different and had a little different sound at that time. But I've always loved this song. But it was a little bit what I call maybe raunchy. It had a little too suggestive for a bunch of kids to sing. So I called Jeannie about it. I said, what do we want to do? I said, because I want to do this song. I said, I can hear it. We can do a great bluegrass arrangement. I know how we could put it together. And I explained. She said, oh, yeah, that's great. But she said, that'd be kind of a tough one to pull off there. That's kind of a little suggestive.
I've got an idea what the song is. I'll text you when we're off air. I want to know if my mind is right. Just say yes or no.
We'll see if it is or not. I'll let you know.
Yeah.
But, so this is just too cool. Just talk about another great opportunity that we got to take part of. She said, I'll call you right back. And I said, okay. So she hung up the phone, called me about 2 hours later. She said, well, I just called Bill and we rewrote those parts. And so I thought, you got to be kidding me. So it took it from kind of a sensuous relationship to a teenage romance, and it really is pretty cool how they pulled it off just by changing a few words. And I love the way it's written. I just love it.
In 2 hours.
In 2 hours, yeah. She just called him and she said, oh, I forgot to call you back. Like it took 30 minutes. The longest part was typing it out in the email. That was the bizarre thing about that. I'll just call you back. And sure enough, she called back. They rewrote the dead blame thing. It was just crazy.
Wow. Yeah. Now that you say that, I think I definitely know what song it is. I'll text you. And
please let me know.
Yeah.
Play a little guessing game.
Yeah, exactly. But the last song, let me grab my notes. The last song that you sent me was You Ought to See Me in Mine. When I first saw that song title, I thought, See Me in Mine. That sounds like another Seeley.
This is absolutely
Seeleyism.
That's what it is. This was a page in her book. She wrote this. She's got notepad after notepad after notepad of just little things that she thought was clever, and
she wrote a book with those pieces of a puzzled mind.
Pieces of a puzzled mind. This is out of a page of that book. And it says, if you think I look bad in your eyes, you ought to see me in mine. What a deep line that is. Mm-hmm. But the great thing is she wrote the song, but she co-wrote it with Bobby Tomlin, which is a great songwriter. And his big song that he had was One More Day with Diamond Rio.
Yeah.
And then Buddy Cannon came in and helped him co-write it as well, which he's known for all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, he's
Joe was one of his bigger ones.
Yeah.
So it's got some great songwriters on it, and I love the arrangement. It's such a beautiful melody, and I'm so proud of this song. This is one of my favorites off the whole day. I love every song, and you don't want to cut anything that you don't like.
Right.
But this one has something special about it, and I just love this song. You ought to see me in mine.
Well, let's go ahead and play Country Then and Now.
I never meant to disappoint you, but it looks like I did anyway. Some things are best left unspoken, 'cause you can't take back what you say. I can't find the words for I'm sorry. No matter how hard I try. If you think I look bad in your eyes, then you ought to see me in mine. I realize now how I hurt you, and it stays on my mind both day and night. You found the heart to forgive me. I was wrong, and I can't make it right. I can't find the words for I'm sorry. No matter how hard I try. If you think I look bad in your eyes, you ought to see me in mine. If you think I look bad in your eyes, then you ought to see me in mine.
Cash on Country Then and Now. So I know we're running short on time. When were we looking for the album to be out? Sometime first of the year, maybe?
Sometime before the end of the year, I believe. Right around the end of the year, first of the year, sometime along in through there.
Okay, good deal. And are you doing any touring right now?
We're all over the place. You can go to cutterandcash.com and see where we're going to be, when we're going to be there. Got a cruise coming up. Got Joe Mullins Industrial Strength Bluegrass Festival coming up November. Got all kind of stuff. I've got the Bluegrass Hall of Fame coming up on October the 11th. Nashville Motor Speedway Hall of Fame induction coming up on November the 6th, I believe. Got all kinds of great stuff coming up.
You said you got a cruise coming up?
Got a cruise. Actually, 2 cruises coming up. One will be at the end of this year, and then the other one will be in 2026. So that one's got some time to jump on that boat.
Okay.
But we got all kinds of great stuff coming up. After this year's over with, we've worked about 80 dates this year, and that's wonderful for us. That's just great.
And so is that going from one side of the country to the other, or
we've worked everything from Texas to Florida to Pennsylvania to did right up there in northern Indiana, right there on the Michigan line. All kinds of great stuff.
That red van's getting some miles on it.
It's getting some miles on it. That's exactly right. It sure enough is.
Well, Cutter, I appreciate you doing this.
I can't thank you enough for having me on. I appreciate it, and I've so enjoyed talking to you, and I hope to get to do it again soon.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We're keep in touch with us, and
Yes, sir.
next time you're down this way, holler at me. We'll go grab lunch.
Most definitely. We will. We'll have to do that. It'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, sounds good.
Thank you again.
You bet.
Enjoyed coming on.
Absolutely. Take care. We'll see you next week.
Same to you. Bye-bye.
Bye.